Okay, I've got a question. What do a grill, fishing line, and real estate have in common?
Well, somehow, believe it or not, they are all key plot points in 2023's Curious Caterer: grilling season. And we've got a lot to talk about, Jennifer.
We do, Josh, and we'll unwrap it all on this episode of Do You Watch What I Watch?
If you like holiday movies from the classics to newbies, let's sit down and watch, then have a talk with Jennifer and Josh. Sit down and watch, then have a talk with Jennifer and Josh.
So, do you like to grill, Jennifer?
No.
No.
I have a
Okay.
George Foreman. It's about as much grilling as I do. Does
And
that count?
that might count. I'll give you that. Let me ask you this question. Could you ever see a
Yeah.
grill being such a key part in a homicide?
They are high risk appliances or specialty equipment. So there's always a risk if you're going to grill.
And we see that risk in really dramatic fashion early on in this movie, the very first movie we are going to review here on season 2 of Do You Watch What I Watch? And I am so excited to be back. We will get started in just a minute. Dot, dot, dot.
Yes, because this episode, our first of season 2, comes out on Valentine's Day, and nothing says Valentine's Day like a deadly grill explosion. That just really sets the mood for everybody. Whether you're single or in a relationship, love is all around at the grill, I guess.
It's either a
Some
dumpster
heart kebabs.
fire or maybe a literal fire. I mean, who knows?
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So, first, do us a favor, help us grow our podcast by liking, subscribing, and writing a brief review. As long as it has 5 stars, we don't really care how wordy it is. It really helps us out. And while you're at it, you can follow us on social media. All of the links for all the things are at www.doyouwatchwhatiwatch.com. And we do have a new logo, some new branding, but our same voices. So don't worry. It's still
Yeah.
Jennifer and Josh.
Yeah, just a new look, new season, new energy, feeling good about season 2. Here we go.
New year, new us. So now to the
Right?
plot summary from IMDb. Caterer Goldie Berry reunites with Detective Tom Schultz when a realtor is murdered. As they uncover personal and professional rivalries, they realize the culprit is closer than expected. Are you ready, Josh?
Dum dum dum. Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so this is a sequel. I guess it will now be a continuation of a series. Curious Caterer, the OG, premiered last year, and I believe it was Death by Chocolate was the name of it.
Yes, indeed.
I'm assuming you have not caught the first Curious Caterer movie, Josh?
No, and I feel like that might have been an oversight going into the second one because this really assumes that you have some backstory and history to some of these characters early on.
It does. So I was curious, much like a caterer, how that would translate to you being a newbie. Honestly, some of the characters, I recognize their faces, but I forgot how they were intertwined. And I did see the movie last year. So,
Hmm.
it is what it is. All right. So opening scene, the font has flames. And I thought, okay, Hallmark, I see you with some
Come on,
flame
production,
topography.
right?
Yeah. So we see an outdoor kitchen with a private and confidential envelope laying atop it, and a blurry brunette figure who is Susie, that will matter later, is reading the documents when a dark clothed figure comes from behind and strangles her to death. They grab the docs and slump her over by the grill where it explodes. Ah! And I couldn't help but think to myself, okay, Hallmark, you have spent some money on this one. I see you.
Someone producing this has also watched a few episodes of CSI because this felt very much like the opening scene of an episode of CSI. Dramatic
Okay.
lighting, the way
Uh
it was
huh.
shot, the music, the suspense building. It was drama. By the way, I don't know that I have any manila folders just sitting around my life that just are stamped personally confidential. Like that to me seemed a little okay, a little literal.
I
I
know. If
get
you
you.
were going to have personal documents, would you really label it as such? Or would you just say like keep or do not bend or like fragile? I don't know, some other kind of generic thing.
One would think. Let's not advertise the fact that it's a secret. I mean,
Yeah. Okay. So we cut to on the screen, it says 10 hours ago. We meet our leads, Goldie, who is Nikki DeLoach, and she's a Hallmark goddess. We love some Nikki DeLoach. She is a caterer, so she's preparing food to cater an event, and it's Susie's birthday party. Now, buckle up because you are about to be introduced to no less than 9 characters in the opening scenes of this movie. And it will be a lot at first, but it is important to identify them all because of the whodunitness of this movie. So away we go. We meet Susie's boyfriend, Richard, who is loud and loaded with money. He bought the grill, he brings it in. We obviously need to hate him, is what I thought. Turns out Richard was in the movie last year. I thought he looked familiar.
Whoopsie doo.
Also turns out he's Goldie's ex-husband, who I completely forgot. I thought he was like one of the suspects last year. Did not remember he was her ex-husband at all until way later in this movie. So whoopsie doo on me. All right, next we're gonna meet Tom, who is Andrew Walker, one of my, if not my favorite Hallmark leading males. And he's the detective, but he also, because Goldie and Tom helped solve a case last year, they kind of had a little flirtments, but they've never kissed. Just a little like romantic tension is as much as we've seen from them so far, just so you know.
It's very
So,
Elliot Stabler, Olivia Benson, kind of a will they, won't they vibe between the two of them throughout.
what is that from? I don't know those characters you just named.
Sorry, what? Law and
What is
Order
that
Special
from?
Victims Unit, SVU.
See, usually I like my programming light and fluffy.
Understood. Yes, that would not be SVU.
Except when I don't, and then I go like full on Handmaid's Tale and like dark, dark. Like there's no middle ground with me.
To each his own, right?
Okay, got it. So I will take your word for that. So Tom walks in, he approaches Goldie, and he, I wrote down, is bringing the heat to the grill. Sizzle.
I'll let it
So
slide.
much smolder.
A lot of smolder.
We meet Goldie's catering assistant, Marla, and she's surprised that Tom had time for the party because she thought he was too busy with work, as Goldie had told her, because she wants Tom and Goldie to be a thing. Don't we all?
Mm.
All right, we see Susie, the birthday girl, talking to her ex Hal on the couch. Richard, the new boyfriend, predictably doesn't like Hal. We meet Dennis, who's a surgeon neighbor who has filed multiple noise complaints on Susie. But as an effort to kind of extend a welcoming hand, she invites him to the party. He brings fancy wine. He's happy to be there. Good for Dennis. We meet Tom's ex-girlfriend Jessamine, who shows up, who I guess knew them all in high school. Um, we see Kenny, who is a guy who was flirting with Marla and saying maybe he should threaten Susie to not break out of a deal. And it's intriguing. I mean, all of this it was a lot, right?
It was a lot. I mean, I felt like I wrote this in my notes. A lot of character introductions early on. It feels like it's hard to dip into this without knowing who these main characters are. So many divorces and new relationships and cheating and drama. We're setting up the big whodunit big time, and I find it soups confusing.
Yes. And so half of these characters were not in the movie last year, if that's any solace to
Oh,
you.
okay, there you go. Yeah.
It was just a lot. It was a whole lot. So we are introduced to all these people because obviously we're gonna have to set up they all are guilty or could be. So Richard, the boyfriend, gets into a scuffle with Susie about how she's talking to her ex-husband. He saw, or no, Dennis saw, somebody saw Hal leave
Somebody saw
Susie's house the
something.
night before at 2 a.m. So Richard obviously thinks she's cheating on him. And he was going to propose. He had a ring in his pocket. Guess what does he do now?
Mm.
Sidebar, why do caterers wear those outfits? It's like a coat with a lot of buttons. And if I were a caterer, which I am definitely not, I would wear like a water and sauce proof like parka with
Yeah,
pockets. I wouldn't
one
have
would
like
think.
much of a tailored appearance, but they always do, at least in movies.
They
Wear
always
that outfit.
do. I wrote 2 notes about all of this. I had major kitchen envy here. I mean, this kitchen
Mhm.
is baller. Number
Phenomenal.
2,
Yeah.
I wrote the same note about the caterer outfits. I mean, if you're schlepping food for, a huge crowd, why are you wearing white, number 1? And
Yeah.
number 2, wear a yoga pants and a t-shirt or something. I mean, you got to be running around all over that place. Working a grill
Like,
too? I mean, come on.
have some athleisure, yeah, and definitely have some fire retardant materials,
Please.
especially in this house.
Right?
Okay, so we meet Fran Markinsian, who comes to Susie's house at the end of the party. She's a tough as nails private eye, And then the party's wrapping up. So Dennis, the doctor from across the street, is trying to convince Susie to sell her house. So that's why she was talking to Hal, the realtor, late last night. I really don't know why she was talking to Hal though, because isn't Susie a realtor too? Like, if she
Hmm.
wanted to sell her house, she could have done her own thing. Very
Yeah.
confusing. We meet Chester, who's Susie's cousin and business partner, who looks super slimy. And then at the end, Goldie and Marla are cleaning up. They make a point to say how they're cleaning the grill. They leave the house, and Fran and Susie are talking. Okay. Whew. Have I
That's a
lost
lot.
anybody yet?
It's a lot.
We need one of those murder whiteboards with the red string to tie together just all the characters themselves,
You
like
get
some
one.
sort of an infographic. Yeah. Ask and we
Stay
shall
tuned.
receive. Yes. Okay. So then Goldie's at her house late at night. I guess this is the next night. Unsure.
Hmm.
And Tom comes by and he's like, "Hey, I know you saw me leave with my ex-wife, but I don't like her." And then, of course, before he can confess his love to Goldie, he gets a call that Susie is dead and Goldie was the last to use the grill that exploded. Dun dun dun.
His exact line here, Jennifer, by the way, is quote, "There's been an accident at Susie Craig's. Her grill exploded." And how he got that line out without cracking up is beyond me. Pay him all of the money because I would
So
not have been
sincere.
able to get past that.
Some of the lines are questionable at best. Okay, so we find out Susie was murdered. She was strangled before the explosion, turns out. And then somebody blocked the regulator of the brand new grill, causing it to explode. We start to hear alibis I'm not going to get into for everybody because honestly,
Mm,
I got a little lost in all of it. But everybody has an
hmm.
alibi, including the Dr. Dennis across the street. He was at a house call, yada yada. These people were here and there and everywhere. So people start to hear in the town what happened and cancel their bookings with Goldie because she was the last to use the grill that murdered her friend. And this will be terrible business for Goldie. So she needs to get to the bottom of the murder at once, even though she absolutely should not be working on this case. And I'm pretty sure it would be illegal for her to be around this much of the case. I'm not a detective, but it seems a little sus. And she insists on helping Tom. And let's be real, Tom likes Goldie, murderer or not, so he brings her along for the whodunitness of it all. They go find Richard in his cabin because Richard got jealous, the whole Susie Howe thing and took off. So they find Richard in his cabin, his hunting cabin, tell him what happened, and interrogate him. And he's very distraught. And it was at this point I typed, I forgot Richard was her ex, Goldie's ex. What? So,
Also, Goldie
um,
had a ridiculous umbrella in this scene, and I couldn't get past that either. It was one of
yes,
those
but
that
she's
like
so beautiful and perfect. I don't even
covers
care.
her entire head.
With that hair, you can't risk getting it
I
wet.
mean,
No,
gotta protect
no.
that Hallmark hair.
Bad for business. Richard says he was at the cabin when it happened, but he can't prove it because he turned off his phones. There's no pinging to cell towers or anything. So Richard, definitely a high suspect. At this point in the movie, Josh, what was your bet as to who done it? Did you have any inklings?
Well, I did, and I called it.
Oh,
I'm
you
going to
did.
leave it at
Okay.
that. Yeah. For the
Okay.
sake of our listeners, I'm not going to reveal it, but I called it.
Well, I didn't think it was Richard. I thought, he has a kind face. They
Yeah.
would know
Yeah. I
no
had a hard
better.
time thinking it was him. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Oh no, my computer is wanting to run an update. Negative. Snooze.
Not now,
No,
computer.
no, sir. Not
Important
on my
podcast
watch.
work developing in this moment.
Come
The
on.
things we
It's
go
maybe
through,
it's
dear
the
listener.
maybe it's the murderer trying to sabotage us talking about this podcast and this story.
Or it could be Lifetime calling to ruin our recording for our next episode. Stay tuned for the tease on that.
This may be our last podcast night we record.
Our
Okay,
grills may
I
explode.
digress. No, no. Okay, so Marla and Goldie are working together. They get out this big whiteboard and they have pictures just like on Scandal kind of thing, and they're trying to figure out who did it, and it was very funny. And then Tom shows up at the back door through the glass and is like, "No!" He was so mad. Mad Tom is my favorite, I think, version of Tom because he tells him to stop interfering. It's not safe. Tear down the whiteboard. Okay. Then we get a whole interlude of thinking either Hal or Fran murdered Susie. That doesn't, just kind of all these tendrils are spiraling out here. We find out that Susie's neck then was cut with fishing line that's lime green, which is the exact kind of fishing line that Richard uses And I thought, oh,
Here we go.
I don't know if I can stand Richard anymore because it's not looking good for my
No,
man.
no.
Mm-mm. But Goldie's like, no, he would never do that because he's my ex-husband and I probably still have feelings for him. She didn't say that. I inferred. All right, so then they bring Richard into the police station for questioning. Then we see Chester, who is Susie's cousin, business partner, meeting with Jessamine, Tom's ex-wife. And they're at the coffee shop that Marla runs on the side when she's not catering with Goldie, I guess. And they're talking about they want to buy Susie's, or they want to, Jessamine wants to buy out Susie's real estate company, but they're waiting for the will to be read. And Jessamine also met with Hal. So she's getting around trying to buy some real estate company. And at this point, I wrote in caps, Chester for sure did it because he seemed slimy. We hadn't focused that much on him. So I thought it's going to be somebody they haven't really talked about. And his name's Chester. So, not great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So back to the whiteboard. Goldie's like, enough of this. I got to get my whiteboard back out. We have a whole thing where they think maybe Kenny was the murderer because he had some bad blood with Susie. Marla distracts Kenny. I said she lures him away so Goldie can break into his house to look for the fishing line, and I thought it was funny because lured fishing line.
Ha ha.
But ching.
Yeah, exactly. But she
Um,
basically commits a crime, breaking and entering here. Yeah,
she does,
exactly.
but I did write that she was looking like a snack even when searching for clues. Goldie has it together. Cut to that goes nowhere. The will is read, and Goldie inherited Fiesta wear from Susie.
Congratulations.
I we have a will, but I did not break down like my Corningware or my Pyrex. Like that's just a free for all for y'all. I'll say it right here. If I go down, you can play this at the funeral. It's just a free for all. Everybody have at it. Grab whatever you want.
Just throw open the doors.
Yeah, it's just a mad dash like Black Friday to get
Supermarket sweep.
some. It really would be. Now that we have the pod, Josh, we do need to try to get on supermarket sweeps, like
Oh,
podcasters edition.
come on. Are they still
Except
making
our
it?
spouses would be mad. I don't know if they make it
They,
anymore
yeah, they would certainly be mad, but we should think
because
about
they
that.
would want to be on it too. No,
Hmm.
okay, to be
They can
continued.
be in the
All
audience.
right. Yeah. So Hal gets Susie's house and the company. Cool. Then, dun dun dun, Fran is dead by the river. It has a lovely blue tone to her because she's been there a while. She was killed after Tom's assistant, Mason, stalked her in a store on Monday. So we're
Hmm.
trying to put together the timeline. She was found in the river outside of Richard's cabin, and the gun is under Richard's grill at home. And so it's just kind of like open and shut for Richard, is what we think,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Okay, so there was a store owner that hired Fran before she died to redo fitting rooms and new cameras and security. So my closed captioning said foreboding music plays.
There's a
Really
lot of
cool.
that in this one. Yeah.
Lots of it. So Goldie goes and breaks into the dressing rooms, destroys property, rips off part of the toe kick, and finds a folder. More foreboding music plays. Goldie gets in the car. It's dark outside, and she opens the folder in the parking lot and starts reading through it. I yell, Goldie, lock your car. And someone comes from behind her, grabs her from the back seat, and shoots her with a needle and drugs her. She wakes up to the sound of a paper shredder
Hmm.
and she's strapped in a chair from the crazy doctor guy, Dennis.
Hmm.
He admits
Hmm.
that he killed Fran and he killed Susie. So Susie came over after the party and apologized for the noise complaints. Turns out he wanted to buy her house because he treasures his privacy. His bedroom overlooks her patio. And so he saw Fran and Susie talking, and Fran had found out that Dennis was working with the mafia for illegal surgeries in Italy, and he couldn't have that news getting out. Also, Richard has been stealing his patients away. Yada, yada, yada. You get the drift. He had to murder them. So he called his own service line as this name called Lynn Gorch to have an alibi and offered to buy Fran out to keep quiet. And that's when he murdered her too. So all that to say, Dennis, no bueno.
Yeah. Which is so funny because it's like he obviously had no problem murdering these people earlier on. And so Goldie wakes up and she's like, "Why am I still alive?" That's literally her line. And then I'm sitting in my bed watching this and I shout to the TV, "So you can totally give us the Murder She Wrote rundown of what the heck happened here. That's why you're still alive, literally."
Yes. Well, he says it's because he's waiting for Richard to make bail, and then he's going to
Yes.
kill Richard and Goldie at the same time to make it look like a murder-suicide situation. So he had a plan. They did kind of address that, but it is also like, because you're one of the leads, that's why you're not
Right,
dead yet.
exactly. Because you're a Hallmark princess. That's why.
Yeah, we
Queen.
could
Let's
never.
just go there. You're a queen. Yeah.
Yes, she's royalty. So, cut to Tom. He's kind of curious because Goldie isn't really answering his calls. So he goes to find her at her house, sees the board through the glass again. She needs drapery on those French
Please.
doors because
Please.
if it's not Tom, it could be anybody peeping
Right
at her.
there.
Get some window treatments. So he
Please.
sees the board. He starts to kind of figure out where she might be. And he goes to the shop where she'd been and they review security footage and he can see Dennis drugging her in the neck on the footage because the footage of the security cam was perfectly aimed
Perfect.
directly at them.
It's like 4K
Crystal
right on
clear,
that parking spot.
high def footage. Dennis didn't think about that, did he? Knew. So I said, that's our Tom on the case. He takes off. Cut to Dennis invited Richard after he got out of jail over to his house to play pool and unwind. So Richard's playing pool. Dennis is downstairs making him a deathly drink. Tom breaks in, gets Goldie out. They go kind of creeping behind Dennis, and they're gonna, bonk him on the head or whatever they do. I don't know. I can't shoot him. Got the guns up, and Goldie says, "Tom, I don't know. Basically, he had the syringe of
The
something."
syringe,
He's like,
yes.
"What?" Dennis clobbers Tom to the ground, and then Goldie grabs a knife because they're in the kitchen, of course, and goes just ape crap on him. I mean, she was unleashed on this man. Then my favorite part of the whole movie, Richard, clueless, comes downstairs from playing pool and says, quote, "What the heck is going on?"
There's literally like a broken blender on the ground and like a
There's a kitchen
syringe.
scuffle, syringes, knives, three people tossing and turning, and then they got Dennis, they captured him. And now, oh, that's all he has to say. What the heck is going on? So obviously, Dennis gets taken away. All is well. Tom and Goldie embrace, and then she needs to talk to her daughter. Yeah, because she has a daughter. That doesn't really matter. And she has a long glance with him, and she tells him thank you, and then it's over.
And then it's over. I had to laugh because it's very clear that they wanted to introduce that she had this daughter, Olive, but then they had to explain why we never saw her again and then wrap up
Mhm.
her little plot point at the very end because they're like, "Oh yeah, she was at a softball tournament and they made the finals." The end.
Yeah. Okay, time for our gold or coal segment where we each give three gifts to the pod. If there's more gold, it's hot, hot, hot. And if there's more coal, it's a dumpster fire. And if it's a tie, it's just a meh. Josh, you go first.
Sure, I'm going to give some gold here. I thought the leads did a really good job. I liked them together, good acting, and I like that they had more to do in this movie than just fall in love. I thought that that was fun to watch.
Absolutely. That was one of my pieces of gold, the chemistry between them. And really all the cast. I mean, I think they all did a good job. Well, maybe not a couple of them. 90% of the cast was really good and fun to watch.
Exactly. So
So,
we're up to two pieces of gold then. Is that
hmm
right? Okay.
Yep.
I do have some coal to give here. I'm sorry, I burped.
No carbonation on pod days.
Seriously, right? I felt like there was just too much going on here. Like 1 million characters, 1 million motives, 1 million things going on, alibis. It was just a lot. It was a lot.
I'll agree with that. My Cole, I didn't get enough Goldie and Tom together. In the
Mm,
first movie, and maybe that's why, because in the first movie, it really establishes their connection and their chemistry, which obviously you picked up on and I knew was there, but I wanted more of them together. I feel like a lot of the movie was them like ships passing in the night, whereas the first movie,
hmm
they were working together more. Even though I still question why she's allowed to work on these cases. It seems like some kind of a whatever the crime version of HIPAA violation would be. I feel like she shouldn't
Right,
be allowed to do
exactly.
that.
Yeah,
But
no, that's a
what do
good
I know?
point because, and in fact, he was almost mad that she was sort of pursuing it herself, which it
Hmm.
seems to me the whole movie's about them. Like, let's see them doing the whiteboard together kind of thing. That would
Yeah.
make a little bit more
Yeah.
sense. I will give gold for my last gift. I legitimately thought this was an entertaining movie. I was unprepared for how much I had to pay attention to this movie to actually understand what the heck was happening.
It's not casual
But
viewing.
it's not casual viewing, but it was still a fun watch. Like, it was a good kind of lighter movie to watch that still sort of felt a little bit like a mystery kind of situation.
And my last piece of gold is the whodunit of it all, which is kind of what you were saying too. It felt like a big old game of Clue. Like you may as well have had Colonel Mustard and Miss Peacock in the mix too. What's a
Yeah,
few more characters at this point?
right,
With the
exactly.
candlestick in the library. It's very fun. I'm not huge on the mystery series on Hallmark. It's not really my cup of tea usually, but I really do like this series. I hope they continue to make more of these movies. I would continue to watch them.
I bet they will. And so our final score was dum, ba, 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 4-2. We're gonna call it hot, hot, hot.
Oh yeah.
And that, friends, is another episode of Do You Watch What I Watch? Our very first one of season 2, Jennifer.
How exciting.
Yeah.
Special thanks to Nick Schwartz for our theme song, and of course, to you for listening.
Hey, if you like our podcast, do us a favor, review it, subscribe it, tell a friend. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and social media. Just look us up on doyouwatchwhatiwatch.com, where you can find all of our social handles. Hey, next time, we're taking a little bit of a left turn here, right? We are reviewing Lifetime's new movie about Gwen Shamblin starving for salvation. We're going to have a whole lot to discuss, Jennifer. And until then,
May your days be merry and bright. See you next time.